Hey everyone, and welcome back to Horror Movies for Life YouTube channel. And in this video, we're going to take a look at a 1982 horror movie that I do have the physical media for. And actually, it's a very nice physical media release, and that is is part of my Arrow Blu-ray collection. And that movie is, drumroll, Deadly Games from 1982. So yeah, this is a very nice Arrow release with the slipcover here. And then there's some special features there on the back and a synopsis of what the movie's about. So yeah. So let's talk about Deadly Games. Now this was a movie that, based on what it sounded like and based on having a very nice release by Arrow, I had probably higher expectations for this than I should have. I'll just put that out there. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into Deadly Games from 1982. So it is a 1982 American slasher film written and directed by Scott Mansfield and starring Alexandra Morgan, Joanne Harris, Sam Groom, Steve Railsback, Denise Gallick, Colleen Camp, and June Lockhart. It follows a small town terrorized by a ski mask serial murderer targeting young women. So the movie opens with Linda Lawrence, who's attacked by a ski-masked intruder in her rural home and pushed from a second-story window to her death. Her sister Clarissa Keegan Lawrence is a successful journalist. She returns to their hometown upon the news of her sister's death. Linda's death is investigated by police officer Roger Lane, who attempts to determine whether it was an accident, suicide, or a murder. At a local diner, Keegan runs into several female friends and acquaintances from high school. Mary Adams, Chris Howlett, Carol Bailey, Randy and Susan Teresa, Scooty Lane, Susan Teresa, Sooty Lane. That's she's got a long name, man. And the latter who... Wait a minute, let me start over here. She meets several female friends and acquaintances from high school. Mary Adams, Chris Howlett, Carol Bailey, Randy, Susan Lane, also known as Sooty, the latter of whom is married to Roger. Okay, that's a mess. Anyway, after visiting with her estranged mother, Marge, Keegan attends a flag football game with her friends and acquaintances. There, she notices a brooding man sitting on the sidelines, whom she does not immediately recognize. Mary informs her the man is Billy Owens, a former classmate of theirs and a Vietnam War veteran who sustained significant injuries in battle. The introverted Billy now works at the local movie theater changing film reels and has a close friendship with Roger over their mutual service in Vietnam. So yeah, that's to set up the premise, the beginning of Deadly Games from 1982. As far as the cast goes, we have Joanne Harris as Keegan Lawrence, Sam Groom as Roger Lane, Saul Sindel as Tom, Steve Railsback as Billy Owens, Denise Gallick as Mary Adams, Dick Butkus, yes, that Dick Butkus, number 51 is Joe Adams, and Christine L. Tudor as Chris Howlett, just to name a few of the large cast in this movie. So yeah, that's to set up the premise and the cast from the 1982 horror slasher film Deadly Games. Like I said, my expectations were too high for this movie based on this release and based on what it sounded like. The movie's not nearly as good as I was hoping it was going to be going into it. Not to say it doesn't have good things about it, but anyway, yeah, let's just go ahead and get into my review here. I just want to check something here. Nah. Okay. So let's start with the pros, the things that I liked about Deadly Games. And the small town setting, you always got me with that. I like the small communities, the small towns, kind of rural, away from the big cities, and a lot of resources at the characters' disposal. So right away, I'm a fan of the small town setting, as I've said in other movie reviews. The opening scene is the biggest pro I can give this movie. The first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie was really solid, and it really had my hopes up high that I was in store for a good slasher movie. Between the stalking, the atmosphere that's created by the music and the lighting, it just kind of had everything going for it at the start of the movie. So, yeah, I really enjoyed the first 15 minutes of this movie. It's not really a prologue because the opening credits roll before this, but I will say there's some decent atmosphere as well in this movie. It's decent atmosphere that's created at times, especially the opening. The musical score, I think, is solid in this movie and very fitting. And I think the acting is pretty solid within the movie to at least make it a fun watch, if nothing else. I'll get into my problems with the movie, which are several. But you can say that it's an early 80s slasher, cheesy, fun, entertaining time. It doesn't make any sense. It's all over the place. And it doesn't end particularly well. But I'll get more into that in my cons. But you can put this on and have a fun time with it, especially if you're drunk with a bunch of friends or something like that, and you're not trying to think too hard. So yeah, because of the atmosphere, because of the small town setting, as well as the beginning of this movie, I think there's some fun to be had here. I should mention also Dick Butkus is in this movie, number 51 for the Chicago Bears. And he plays like the owner of this small diner that our main character Keegan goes to early on in the movie. He's also I think he's married to one of these gals too, if I'm not mistaken. I want to get into my cons, and I'm trying to get into them in my pros here. That should tell you something about the movie. But it was cool to see Dick Butkus here. I always enjoyed him in his various acting roles that he did. He starred in several TV shows as well throughout his life. Rest in peace to Dick Butkus, one of the great defensive players in NFL history. So that's another pro. And then Joanne Harris, who plays Keegan as the main character. This is more of a mixed, I would say. I think she does a good job kind of playing an over-the-top, different sort of final heroine character. It doesn't completely work for me, which I'll get into in my cons as well. But I will say it is different and unique. It's not the quiet, sort of, I don't know how to describe it. Like you kind of get in the final girl or the final characters, the main character. This is a character that's very over-the-top, that's very out there, shall we say. And I give Joanne Harris credit for that because she portrayed it well. So, yeah, those are my pros for Deadly Games. Now let's get into the cons, the meat of this review. The movie's strange. It's just a strange movie overall. Going from a mystery slasher, neither of which is done very well, to a rom-com buddy kind of movie. It's really all over the place with weak transitions between the two. I just don't think this movie ever quite knew what it wanted to be, and I don't think it ever stuck the landing on anything that it tried to be. So yeah, the way the movie ends is an absolute buzzkill as well. Really leaves you disappointed and unsatisfied with what is set up throughout the movie, and then we get the freeze frame final crappy shot ending that's just weak as hell. You know, a lot of these movies like to end on a freeze frame, and I don't necessarily mind that as long as they give me a good payoff before that, but this movie does not. So the ending was terrible. As good as the beginning was, the ending was equally terrible. The reveal of the killer is not a big twist reveal that the movie tries to make it out to be. It was pretty obvious, to me anyway, from jump, who the killer was going to be, especially when they try to push a red herring character so hard in this movie. That's usually a telltale sign that, well, it's definitely not that person that they're trying to push. So obviously, it's this person, and that's kind of what this movie was about here. It's just not that good or cool of a reveal. The killer just basically tells another character that he's the killer. Without any build-up, without any cool way of revealing that. It's just very anticlimactic. The whole, the killer reveal, the twist, whatever you want to call it, it's all just very anticlimactic in this movie. The killer is easily confronted and dispatched without any chase or confrontation with the main character or characters in this movie. They're just gone, just like that. I mean, it's... it just doesn't really make any sense. It's very unsatisfying. It's a bloodless and goreless movie. The kills, there's 4 or 5 kills in this movie, but there's no blood or gore. So if you're tuning into, because this is a slasher movie, to see the kills and the gore that's associated with them, you're going to be vastly disappointed. This is a slasher movie that's not about the kills so much as it is about the mystery. And the problem with that is there's not much of a mystery here either. So you have a crappy slasher, not a good mystery, with a rom-com buddy kind of movie mixed in, which I really didn't sign up for. Other than that, it's awesome though. Another thing that's interesting in this movie, nobody really mourns or cares about the people that are killed in this movie. They're basically trying to score with the another person the very next day after somebody's killed. The characters are all blend together. There's just, especially the female characters, they introduce like 5 or 6 white female characters that are all the same age, that kind of dress the same, that kind of look the same. I couldn't have told their names apart from Anne or Adam, to be honest with you, so that wasn't great. And then the main character that I talked about in my mixed with Keegan Lawrence, she's a little too upbeat, especially when her sister's been murdered. You know, there's a scene where she goes and sees her mom. It's the only scene her mother is in, anyway, played by June Lockhart. It's like a 3-minute scene. It's like a cameo for June Lockhart. But basically, you know, she's talking about her mom's trying to set her up with a guy, and she's all bubbly about, oh yeah, I'll meet him, I'll jump his bones. But really sad about my sister, isn't it? Really sad. I really miss her. It's just, man, the tone of this movie is terrible. It's all over the place. Yeah, I don't need to shit on this movie anymore. I think you get the point. I'm going to give this movie a 5.5 out of 10. It's not going to be lower than that, because as I said in my pros, there is some fun to be had here, as long as you're high or drunk or with some buddies or something watching it. But nothing makes sense. The tone is all over the place. They didn't know what kind of story they wanted to tell. They didn't know what kind of subgenre they wanted to make the movie. And it's bloodless and goreless. So 5.5 out of 10 for Deadly Games from 1982. Go ahead and comment down below if you've seen this movie. Am I being too hard on it? Do you get where I'm coming from? Why or why not? Comment down below. Please like this video. Hit the little notification bell. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It would really help me out for the future content on my channel. So with all that being said, we're rolling through September, the first week of September here. Many more movies to go for 1982. I thank you for watching, though. I hope you're enjoying this review series so far. And as always, stay scared. Bye.